So as we discussed yesterday about the test data service, how to read the data, how to write some data on that, updating some sort of report, yeah, creating TDS type tables, accessing those from our Tosca. So that we have gone through. And then before just continuing on the later part of that TDS, yeah, do you guys have any doubts, anything to ask?
Yeah, Pradeep. I'm unable to access that test data service page through localhost. I tried, but I'm not
Okay.
successful.
Uh, okay, let's check on that part. So click on that localhost. Show where is that? What it gives. So when you have what just installed Tosca server, was it was everything working fine? I mean, the services were running
Yes,
properly.
yes. Yes, everything was fine. I have given port number 80 only.
You only. Uh, can you click on the link that I've sent in the chat and see if
Okay.
all right, click copy link. Yeah, it's opening. Okay. The local host and then configuration gateway service, which shows your I don't think so. The server is installed properly then in this case. Can you just uh, try to install the Tosca server again, open that app and then see this? Or yeah, regarding that installation, we'll take that offline, Aruna. I'll take that thing.
Okay.
So yeah. Apart from this, is there anything like specifically
Ah,
to the
no.
no? Okay. Nawaz, anything from your side?
No, Pradeep. Just gone through the video again yesterday.
Okay, fine. So in that case, do we have uh share the screen then? In this example, just like we used this one, right? Uh, so what do we have here? Tosca Excel is what we had written and all these things. The same way, um, what I was saying is, let's say this alias name as well. Let's say if you have an alias name, something called, I'll say Tosca Excel as TE. When we give this alias name, so what do we write it here? So let's say we'll take that same TE as our alias name. With alias name, now if you want to read, we just have to say this instead of Tosca Excel, something bigger one, we can just denote it with this alias name, and then it should work according to that. And then existing alias name it is asking, right? So let's see, if we give TE. So if we give this way and then execute, Okay, it has executed, and when you see the data, then yeah, then a new record might have been added. So the username has been set to GZ this thing, and then this. So this is how, yes, you can use the alias name, and yeah, this you would actually get to know more when it is what do we say, a bigger name in your TDS type or a complex one, and you just want to write it short and use it. So that is how you can use this alias name in this module. If I see, so we have gone through this find, create, update, and then even this move item to some type. So let's say how we can move. I'll use this one. After updating, let's say we want to move existing or new TDS type, move item, and then existing alias name. So if you see this modules here, what do we have to enter? A new TDS type, something new which is not created. So, or let's say what we would have is, if we have some new read from Tosca, it is with read from Tosca, or as soon as we have updated. So if you see, as soon as we have updated this one, uh, the previous record, we are just changing the status of that, right? So read from Tosca is what we said, or read uh, here, what we can do is read from Tosca and move, something like this. So a new record I would be creating, accessing that data once I have that buffer. So the next thing is, only thing is, still buffer is what we need this test data service. Once we store the required data in our variables, the remaining steps again, it remains same, like launching of an application, clicking login link, then entering. When it comes to enter credentials, like enter username and password, there we just have to call buffer of username, and that buffer of username would hold the value of what it is coming from the TDS, the server. So that is what it has. And earlier in previous versions, it is like they used to use TD, not TDS, but TD off, and then this thing. But in this latest version, it is been what we can use TDS off for whatever we are giving it here. Now, in this part, so if you want to move, if you see here, I don't want to keep in Tosca Excel related to the users that I have created, and then whatever status I have changed. I don't want to keep it here. I want to move it somewhere else. So we can use this move item to type, and then uh, these are uh, created and used records. I would say something like that, to a new different TDS types, and then it is what to this TD existing, from that record to this record. I just want to, from this TDS to this TDS, I just want to move the record. Now if you see with this thing, if I execute now, see what happens. It has executed successfully, and when you go there, refresh it, as soon as you refresh, you see TDS types are 2, but it should be now 3, which means created and used TDS. Uh, a new TDS we have created, and there we have said, okay, whatever record was there. Now we are this username, this password, this was created in our previous steps. If you see this innate this thing, so this was created, and once it was used, once the step was at this point of time, what it did is the the TDS was in this thing Tosca Excel. It was here, that record, but that record, what we did is from here we moved to a new, completely new one. So likewise, now due to this steps, whenever we execute, so what happens? We create, first we are creating, then we are finding, and then we are using, like here if you see, we are creating a data, then we are finding the same data, and then we are storing all the buffers, all the data, that whatever we are creating in case, uh, and we are updating with some status, right? In this update item, we are updating one of the column status, and then till this point, the record would be in Tosca Excel only. But then once the next step is executed, moved thing, so from Tosca Excel, it moves to this create and used records. So it keeps on adding over here. So this is what move item would do. And only thing is from which TDS to which TDS is what we have to give. That's it. And so this scenarios and all, it actually comes when you have some sort of requirement, again, as I said. Uh, yes, in real time projects, we use generally this thing. So we don't create data, but we just find data. Creation is what in Excel we just beforehand, before our test case executes, we would create the data in Excel. So whatever it is, be it if we have 50 to 100 test cases that I have to execute, I would what generally prepare an Excel with one record, basically, even not multiple things. So yeah, sometimes some scenarios, multiple records as well we create, but in general, one record for one particular test case we create, and we upload that in this TDS. Once we upload with the status as new, so we generally create the record with status as template record and a new record. Meaning, so when we have a new record, who is this one? Let's say this is template, or let's say not template, but new record only. Let this be like this. What I will do is in my test case, find and so this data I'll do is, can I create a duplicate one? Okay. This, for example, I just copy this thing and just paste it away. A1. Okay. So one is new record. Again on the same note, I will create let's say one status as template on the same record with a new is what we create, and then we find and then we use it. So now if you execute, you see uh, what we do here. So in general, so once it is executed, see here it was 5, here it was 2 records. Now when I refresh it, see each one record should be added here. Now Tosca Excel is 6. 6 why? Because if you see the status with the template record earlier in Tosca Excel A1, a template record is created here. And then there was also a new record, but that new record is what we access that, used that, and consumed it. Once we have consumed it, that new record, we are just moving it to a new table, new TDS type, and then that is what it is coming here, read from Tosca and moved. So here we are moving it. So it also shows that in this Tosca Excel, whatever status was template, which means we also created a new. So template and new, there were 2 records, out of which we are reading only new record, and we are after consumption we are just moving it to a new table. Why we are doing this way is, with this we would also have a track of what record was present in our Tosca Excel, and what was being consumed. So here if you see whatever template is there, so whenever we create a new record, we are also creating a template, in the sense uh, uh, so what we do is this particular uh, template, if we have, now next time I want to again run the same data, I want the same data to be executed for my test case. What we will do, what I'll do is I'll just click here, say Control C, copy this, and then add item. I will paste it here, so the whole record would be coming here, and then here I'll change the template record to new. And then what I will do is I don't create, but find from find I will execute. So generally we don't create, as I said, right? So we just find the data if it is there, and then use that for our test case. Now if you see here, now if I just refresh, so if you see here there were 6 records, but here another one has been added, which means that new record whatever I had created is been consumed again with this step, find and provide, and then set buffer, updated the item, and we moved it. So this is how we generally use. So whenever we want to execute a test case with the same data, mostly it would be same data. We don't even create any new, as I said, right? Multiple times if I want to execute the same test case, we keep the data same. Like template record, if we have, it would be easier for us to even create a new record. We'll just copy it, add item, and then paste it, make a new this thing, and then execute it. That's it. Or you can change this one to new, but then you won't have a template record. And then once nothing is there here, it would be again for you, it gets difficult, or you need to re-upload the Excel with username, what username it was, what password it was. It's not only username or password, it can be like first name, last name, gender, or so and so, some other sort of data, whatever is required for our testing. So that thing, if you have to do, it is better to just uh, create a template record. Not only template, yeah, just this template is just as a flag you can use. So uh, uh, that flag kind of thing, you can rename it to anything you want. We generally do it as template, and another one is new. So once new is done, we change the status of this to passed or failed, and then we move it to a new one. Once it is passed, we move it to some other table. Once it is failed, we also move it to some different table. So that way we can just differentiate how many records. If we have hundreds or thousands of record in a loop, and then one by one we are reading and executing, so that's where some test cases gets passed. Sometimes if it gets failed, passed and fails a different records, different TDS type, yes, we can create it, and then we can come here and see how many records were passed, how many records were failed, and yeah, those sort of information is what we can get it. So that would be
Pradeep,
again.
do you use any conditions there to segregate past and failed records?
Yes. So after this thing moving, before moving, what we can say is here, if we add an if condition. So we have add an if condition saying if uh, what if the state if for the past one I will say, okay, here what we will do is if, and then that's it. So here in condition, I'll just say something a equals to a, or one is equals to one, some sort of this thing, or even without condition itself, even without if condition, what we will do is we will move the record to this thing. So status would be what passed, I would say here. So which means if the Tosca steps 1, 2, 3, all the 10 steps are there, and 10th step, if 10th step is what we are updating, if it comes to the 10th step, by default we will assume it as successfully running, passed. The test case is successfully coming to that point. If it is coming to that point, by default we will mark the status as passed, and then we move it. We don't even use condition for that. But then let's say if something is failing, so when something is failing after reading, we are performing some clicks and page didn't come, expected some page didn't come, or after giving the credentials we were expecting for login to happen, but login didn't happen due to the incorrect credentials, which means in that case it doesn't go to step 10, right? So step 6 itself, it says credentials entering step is there, right? So after that it doesn't go to seventh step, because seventh step gets failed. When the seven steps get failed, what we have in Tosca is we have something called recovery options. So that I would say after this tedious type. So we have something called recovery. So in recovery, what we do is that recovery would basically get triggered when Tosca identifies there's any step or a test case, something, whatever step is failed. So Tosca triggers that recovery. So once a recovery scenario is triggered, there we will say tds type move item to this, and then before that update item of status to be failed, failed in recovery scenario. So recovery scenario we can write it here in test case or any folder level. So there we will say status as failed. So when that step is triggered, we would assume, okay, the Tosca, some sort of some step has been failed, that's why it has came to recovery scenario, and in recovery scenario that step has triggered. Once that step is triggered, we mark that as failed and then move on with the next one. So that is how uh, we can segregate. So past ones till last step, if it is coming past, for failed one, if something gets failed in between, it goes to the recovery. In recovery we write update item something status as failed, and then that way, yes, we can get that differentiation. But even in case in general, we, other than that, yes, or some sort of based on some condition, if you want to move some sort of records to one table, some sort of records to other table, here give that condition. On what condition? If the record number is between 1 to 10, I want to move, then I want to move that records to create and used tds. If it is not, then in else move it to another table. That way also you can do based on what your requirement is. Am I clear on this?
Yeah, yes, Pradeep.
Yeah. So this is what, yeah, in general we do it. And moving off that same way, delete delete item. So we generally this has not been what I would say not recommended to do, because deletion would what doesn't give us PD, we won't be moving it, won't move it, but so in deletion, what we have to give is just the existing TDS name, and then existing TDS name we gave TE. So that thing if we give, so what we are doing is we are creating a new record, creating new record, template and new, and then we are reading. Once it is consumed, we are also deleting itself. We are not even doing that. So if you see, we have read the username with A1, A1, B1. Okay, I want it back to the normal. So A1, B1, and then here we have 7, and here we have 4 records, right? We just refresh it. So 8, because one, I don't know what it has deleted. Uh, say so better I'll just I'll create a new record and then find, offer, update and delete. So if you see here now, MP QHT and then OULV. So we have this two record that is created. Here it is 8, right? If I just refresh, you see it is still 8, because the new record that we created, we used for our test case, and then we deleted with this delete step, updated and then deleted. So uh, that is how we just delete it. Whatever create, it won't even show us here, right? So if you don't delete and if you just execute only this 4 item, yeah, that thing would be present. So and when you're deleting, it should be like if you see here, I just not executed the delete step. I've executed only this till update. Now if you see 8 changes to 9 because one record we have added. Now what is that one? Read from this thing. Okay. Now this step, if I just say only delete, Tosca now somehow it is storing cache, I guess, based on that it is doing. So if you see it has not executed in TE was not found because to delete first you need to find the record, find the record, and then in that sync we have to execute find and then delete it. So to find and delete, so find as well, if there's no new record it doesn't delete, I guess. Yeah, new test data was found because we are searching for new record, and new record, okay, let's say I've just creating this as new record. Now when we execute, so I'm executing just find and provide and then delete. So find and provide would find a new record in our TDS, and then delete would delete that new record. So you see after execution, this 9 changes should change to 8, and then this 7DAU, that record should go off. So you see 9 is been changed to 8, 7DAU, that record has gone because we had found that new record and we were just deleting it. That is how you can use this delete item. And then what is next? If you see, there are import items. We generally don't use this. What this thing is. So update type, if you see this type, existing type to new type. So what we can do is here we can change any of the existing type. So Tosca Excel, if you want to change it to some other type, so Tosca Excel updated or something different name, if you want, we can use this module. So now these are the modules that is being uh, present, and mostly what we use in general, find and provide, and then after finding we uh, what do we do is here, if you see, after finding we use in our test cases with this syntax, we would be reading. So it's not only to buffer we use, or in the test case itself, let's say we have a module for entering username and password. Directly there itself we can call curly braces tds of te dot username. We don't even have to store this in some buffer variable and do it. But it's a good practice if you just store that in some buffer and then use curly braces of buffer of username instead of curly braces of TDS of this thing. So it's best practice to store that in buffer and then use the buffer throughout your test case. Uh, that is one thing. And after that, updating, as you have seen, we have deleted and we have moved item. So all these things we were doing. Now, if you see the next module, which is expert module, what I was talking about. So this drag and drop this expert module. I'll create a new test case. So what this expert module is, test data task. So if you see, what do we want to do? We want to create, or we want to find, we want to update, we want to delete item, we want to delete type, all, lock, unlock. So we have different options that is provided in this module is what we call all in one. Just kind of, instead of taking new different steps, we can just take expert module and then we will say, okay, I want to create data and any alias name if you have or new name, right? The same thing here what we gave Tosca Excel, right? So same module, Tosca Excel. I would just give alias name if you have anything. I'll say TE, and then finding of this. So what did we do here? We created username, password, and this thing. I don't know if this one copy paste would work. No. Right. It won't work. So here we can what U1 or first name, yeah, last name. Um, thing. So we are creating with this module. So once we have created, we are also finding it, right, with status as new. The same thing again, we just use expert module itself. We are using expert module, and then instead of creating, we are or finding Tosca Excel alias we are giving TE, and finding based on the status as new. So we are nowhere creating status as new. Then in that case, we can not give it, or if you want status as new, and here as well we should create status column with new. So with this step, we set find, and then with what criteria? Status as new. We are finding it. So constant, and here we are entering input, in the sense we are entering data over there. So we use this one, find, and this is create and find, and after that directly set buffer of same thing, and then update. So if you just you can just explore on this part, I would say. So I'll just say execute this, and column names, setting configuration, test data repository was not found. Okay, the reason is this configurations is not present in our test case, because we were using this one in, should have so what is our data name? It is demo, and then this value, it is demo, and then this is the value. Because I've freshly created a new test case, and this test case didn't had those configurations. So instead of doing all this thing, just give that configuration at parent folder level, one step higher, so that that configuration. So what I did is, if I have to say you previous thing. So earlier I just gave this configurations in the test case itself, and I was copying that test case. So we were having this test configuration. So instead of this, if I would have given here that test configuration, create the configuration parameters would have been applicable. I don't have to give in each and every test case. So, and also in general, we don't give test configuration parameter in each and every test case. We give at some folder level, be it this folder or this folder or internal, any specific folder, to whichever folder we want. And then under that items, if we want that configurations to be applicable there, to that specific level, we give this configurations. So we can give this configurations test data thing at this TDS level. Outside this, if we do anything related to this, then instead of giving it to TDS, we give it to demo, or we give it to application, depending wherever we want. So now this is executed and it got passed. And if you see here, this 8 changes to what? 9, because one new record we have added, status as new, and then first name, last name we have added. So with this expert module, create, we are creating it that way, find, we are finding in this way. After we find, and then again set buffer, we can use this first name, last name thing, and any update and delete, again same thing, use this module and then say update. If you want to delete the type as well. Delete all would delete all the uh, records from this type. So this is how this expert module is. So generally we use, yes, expert module for now. This individual items as well, yes, if you want you can use, but now expert module is also giving us uh, that particular thing, whatever we want to perform, we want to do. It is this expert module is giving us all that options. So that is where we use just expert module, and here we'll say create TDS, and then here we'll say it as find TDS, something like that, right? So yes, this is all about the Tosca test data service, especially passing data from the server, reading and writing back to the server, and how in general these things would be used. Again, let's say if you have columns, again, when you are performing some in demo application, Or yeah, in demo application, if you are just performing some application testing, and where you order some product, and that order ID would be there, right? So once you request for an order placed, delivered, so for delivery you would have some ID. Let's say it is created, order ID has been placed. So that order ID, next test case is you need second test case is uh, you need what I would say is to find where the delivery is at a particular point. So to test that functionality, first you would need an order ID of that product, right? So if you need order ID, which means again you have to go back and execute the first test case. Else, if some other from our team has executed and created that order ID, so what they can do is they can add that order ID in some new buffer, new TDS type. So they say, okay, order ID list. They can say order ID list, and then here in one column they can keep adding. Once the first test case is executed, there we can buffer the order ID, and that buffered value we can pass to the TDS. So order ID list, in that order ID list, it would be added here. And now for your test case, for your second test case, what you would do, you won't create again. You would just access this TDS type, and then buffer the first order ID, whatever it is present. So likewise from the list, whatever it is present, we just want to buffer it. So come here, access this TDS and get the value of order ID and use that in your test case. So this is how that is a general scenario, wherein if you have a common repository, common server, common place to share, edit, update, and share. Other options, we had Excel, but Excel has to be shared across the team again and again, or that Excel has to be present in some shared location. But in other than that, in TCD, yes, we cannot write data. We can read, but we cannot write. And in buffers, we can store the data, but that buffers would be restricted to the local itself, whoever has executed. So my buffers, if you see this buffers here, order ID, I can do it, but then that order ID, uh, so this order ID would be there only in my local order ID and then some order ID. But if someone else has to use, they should, they won't have that buffer, my buffer. If I just pass, update all, do all those things as well, the buffered values won't go. So they won't get that buffered values, and they would have their own buffer, local values. So this buffer is only limited to our system. That's it. And yeah, that is where this test data service is most useful. Common place it is there, and easy to access the data, easy to read and write data, and anyone from our team can use if they have that address. Anyone can see what data we are using, how many TDS we have created, what column, what name it is. All those details they can check it easily. And one thing here in let's say if you just want to, if you have hundreds and thousands of buffers, and if you want to delete it, uh, we have something called uh, buffer delete buffer, tbox delete buffer. So if you have this tbox delete buffer, we can delete individual buffer names. If you see here, I'll say what password. I just want to delete this. I'll right click and execute. So if you see here, once it has executed, you see that password buffer has been deleted. We can do it this way, or some other random buffers we can create. And now if you want to delete password again, if password is there, I guess it would delete, else just uh, gives us no result. So this way, if password here with this tbox delete buffer, we are deleting a specific buffer, and one by one we can delete it that way. Once we created, if we just don't want our Tosca to store that buffer or something, you can use this buffer. Else, just use this module. Just say tbox delete buffer, and then with this step, it would delete all the buffers. Well, not one by one, but all. If you want to delete, you see, I have executed this successfully, deleted all buffers. So with this, we can clear our buffers as well. So this module is used for that. So I was talking about this TDS. So I hope things are clear with this test data service. Uh, any doubts, any questions,
No, Pradeep.
Aruna?
Pradeep, you said in other companies they are looking for the employees only on test data service. Then what would be they expect to hear?
No, no, not only for test data service. I didn't mean that way. Thing is, in most of the companies, what they are doing now is to uh, read the data to their test cases. They are not doing in this old fashion now. Now when they say test case design is an old fashion, uh, wherein people used to create the test sheets over here and then read the data, write the data over here and then read it. But then this is some tedious task, creating of this test sheets, and then there's username, password. And when we have huge number of data present in our Tosca, like if you have hundreds and thousands of test cases, modules, then if you just click from here to clicking on this demo, it takes some 10-15 seconds every time. And if you're going to some other thing, because Tosca, what it has to do is it has to load what data is present, and handling that huge data within Tosca, it's get difficult. That is where they have come up with this new version of handling the data. So yes, few out of 100, 10-20% people would still be there, wherein they would be handling data in some other fashion, old fashion, which is test case design, or in an Excel, or within test case itself. They are doing it that way. But now, as an upgrade thing, people are looking for this Tosca test data service. So in their new projects or in their upcoming projects, they would be using mostly handling of this data in tedious fashion. So if we have this uh, knowledge or experience, this is added advantage in the interview as well. So you can say, okay, I have handled the data, worked in multiple projects, handled data in different ways within Tosca, within this test case design, using an Excel. Also, the latest one was I had used TDS, and I'm more familiar with this TDS, how we do and all. We can just explain, and then if we have this knowledge, they are uh, kind of not worried. If you don't have that one, then what they have to do is, if new projects are using this one, then they have to explain you guys how to use this data, and spending time on an employee, making them learn this new things. Instead of that, if they have another employee who already knows that, basically they would choose that other employee, right? So this is why uh, we use this tedious data type. It is like doesn't cause any loading issue or a problem for our Tosca test cases. So it is very easy to use and a separate place. So nothing. What I would say is not exactly a blocker, but some issues what we used to get if we are not using test data service is what we won't be facing. So like handling data in these things, punch and all those things. So yeah, not only for TDS I'm saying, but using TDS, yes, the test cases, they are handling it. They are passing data in that fashion. Am I clear, Arun?
Yeah, yeah, Pradeep. And you already explained like it is in the local only, and we can share our test data service day, whatever the data in test data service. So how exactly we do that?
So generally, when we work in that project thing, this won't be in local. This won't be in our local. This would be placed at some company's server, company thing, they would
You mean to say
install
VDI, Pradeep?
VDI, not exactly VDI, but other applications. Let's say whatever application you are testing now, demo web shop or your application under test, whatever system it is there, right? So that each and every people can access with HTTPS colon some web address, right? Same way, same address. What they did generally, they had that application installed in some sort of server within their company server. So within that server itself, this test Tosca server would also be installed, so that their company people can use that address, and then that is where a common address would be shared, and then people can use it. So it won't be like local host in general when you are working in real-time project. It would be some HTTPS colon and that part. So even when you are installing, you see you had option to do either in local HTTP or HTTPS. So when you're doing HTTPS, it is asking for some certificate and those things. So generally, companies would be purchasing that certificate, SSL certificate, HTTPS secure layered one, and they would have that details, and then one has to configure, whoever is the IT management, IT manager, people's IT team, they would generally install that on that server, and then they would provide us, okay, to access that server, the address is HTTPS colon company name dot com and slash TDS or test data service. If we do, then we get that same page, this same server. Now this same local host, instead of this, we would get HTTPS company name dot something slash TDS. If you say, it would be in TDS. So there, if you just click again, it navigates not to the local host, but to that server. Is it clear?
Yeah, Pradeep.
Any other doubts? Anything? Nawaz, Aruna?
No.
No, Pradeep.
So clear about TDS, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So next,
Yes, Pradeep.
next tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll go through the recovery scenario that I was talking about. So I'll explain on that recovery part. And yeah, we'll just continue on that track. Then for today's thing, I guess we are done with thing. So if you don't have any doubts, we are good to close today's session. Thank you, team.